Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Well, I'm on California time, so this is very much morning for me. I think it's 6 a.m., bright and early. I flew in on Wednesday, got in late, and went right to Timcast. Does anybody watch Timcast? Timcast IRL. Well, it was fun. So we got to the studio, and many of you guys might know this, but Tim used to be, well, he still calls himself, I think, a classical liberal, but he used to be very liberal. And that included being very pro-abortion. So I'm sitting here at this table with him and his co-host during the podcast, and one of the guys says, oh, we don't know that it's a human life. There's no way to tell that it's a human life because it's just a cell, a baby, basically. We're talking about when does life begin. He's saying it's just a cell at the beginning, and that looks like any other cell in your body, so you can't really distinguish between the two. Okay, hopefully everyone listening to this is like realizing this is not a good argument. And Tim, the former pro-abortion, very liberal host, he used to work for Vice News, he says, that's stupid. It obviously is a human. And I smiled thinking that our movement, the pro-life movement, even among many liberals today, even among many people on the left who are joining the pro-life movement, realize that it is stupid to say we don't know when life begins. That life clearly begins at the first moment of our beginning as scientists can find it, which is that moment of fertilization at sperm-egg fusion. So we have this beautiful truth. We have this beautiful truth that I believe when we are willing to share it and speak it, people acknowledge it. Many people come to acknowledge it. And surprisingly, as I continue the conversation with Tim, again, this former very liberal guy, he was very pro-life and kept saying that it is murder, abortion does kill. And I just thought, wow, we've done our job here. All of these people are getting more and more pro-life pilled, I'm going to call it. That's the most important pill I think you can take. They're getting more and more pro-life pilled because the facts and the truth is getting out there. During World War II, quick trip back in history here, the Allied forces were able to come together and defeat what was probably one of, if not the greatest force of evil, the Nazis in Germany, because they unified, because they got together with unity and they decided that together they would face and conquer their shared enemy. And because of their courage and unity, we are now still free. We are still free. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that that was literally a couple generations ago, that the world was under threat from a savage regime that wanted to destroy, ultimately, people that they saw as unfit, and that they wanted to take over the United States and every nation in the world. And Winston Churchill said that when he was one of the Allied power leaders that has gone down in history as one of the commanding voices that helped the Allies have the courage to fight and win. And he said, when there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. My purpose this morning is to have us together, join together in unity to face the enemy outside, and that unity that we must share is twofold. As conservatives, as people who care about our country, liberty, the future, there are two core things that I believe we must unite on. First of all, that life is a fundamental and the first fundamental human right. Life comes first. And we must be a civilization that defends that first human right, which is life. Secondly, there's another piece to it. Okay, so we can protect life. Let's say life is protected in this country. Will we have a thriving society? Will we have a just and good society? The second thing that any civilization must have at its foundation to thrive is love. It must be a civilization of love. And by a civilization of love, I mean a civilization of prospering marriages and families. Amen. If we don't have that, we don't have a country. And sometimes this is more difficult to talk about because it's easier in a way to talk about the hard political issues, about liberty, about foreign affairs, about immigration. All of those things matter. They matter greatly. But if we don't get life right, if we don't get protecting the fundamental first human right to life right, and if we don't get the family right, if we don't have a society conducive to fostering marriage and family, then any other rights that we would like to enjoy will be lost. And that's why we must be unified to defend these beautiful things, life and family, life and love, in order to face the ideological enemies that oppose us. I want to start by talking about some of the lies about life and love and the solution to those lies. So first of all, life. Many of you know my work at YAFCon. YAFCon is the global leader right now in education for the pro-life movement, which is a pro-love movement too. But first, it demands stop the killing. Stop the killing of the most vulnerable, humans who have that first right, which is life, like you and me, that we have this right. This right doesn't begin at birth. It begins at the first moment of our existence as human beings. And our Declaration of Independence says very clearly, the document that declared what this country was to be founded upon, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these are life. Life comes first. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But life comes first. I want to tell you a story that happened just recently in my home state of California. A woman chose to undergo surrogacy. She chose to be a surrogate, meaning she chose to effectively rent her womb to others to bring a life into the world. This woman's name was Brittany Pearson. Brittany is a mom, a young mom. She has other children as well. And she chose to undergo surrogacy for two men, a gay couple. Brittany Pearson was about 24, 23 weeks pregnant when she discovered that she had cancer. And she needed to undergo cancer treatments. And she didn't want to put the baby's life at risk because chemotherapy and other treatments could be harmful to the developing baby in her womb. So she contacted the two parents, the two men, and she said, I would like to find a way to bring this baby earthside safely. I would like to find a way to deliver this baby soon. It would be a preemie, but we could care for this baby in NICU and make sure that this baby is safe. And the two men said, because it was their contracted right in the state of California, said, no, we don't want to deal with a NICU baby. They have health issues sometimes. We don't want to do this. And so Brittany said, okay, well, I'll adopt the baby or I'll find someone to adopt the baby. Because they said, well, you should just abort. And she said, no, I'm not going to abort. I don't want to do that. And they said, that's our DNA, at least one of the man's DNA, because it takes a man and a woman to create a child. But one of the men said, that's my DNA. I don't want that DNA out in the world. And so they demanded that Brittany have the abortion. She refused, but she ultimately would deliver that baby at 25 weeks old. Babies can be born and survive as young as 21 weeks and 5 days. This baby was 25 weeks old. This little boy delivered this baby in a California hospital. And because of the demands of the parents, this baby was left to die. Infanticide and abortion go hand in hand. The disrespect of the child, when the child is seen as a commodity, the child is seen as property, that adults believe they have a right to a child, so they're going to use reproductive technology and pay some money to create a life, and they have the power to bring life and end life. This is the understanding of many people today. We have that power. We get to do that. It is the power for us to choose. And so we have this case. Do I think Brittany had a responsibility? Yes. I don't think it's just these two men that were the murderers in this situation and the hospital staff that stood by while a brand new baby boy struggled to breathe. I think it's also the fault of men and women together. We share responsibility. We share responsibility together. Whether it's renting our rooms, whether it's allowing an abortion industry that commits abortions, whether it's a state like California that last fall passed Proposition 1 that permits abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason. You see, when we don't protect the first human right, when we savage our most vulnerable, ultimately the lines quickly become blurred. What is the difference after all between killing a baby moments before birth, weeks before birth, or delivering a baby alive and neglecting and abandoning it until that baby dies? Same baby, same age, different method of killing. If we continue to allow this horror, if we continue to set it aside as just another political issue, as just another social issue for some crazy pro-lifers who are so passionate, and everyone else will just kind of let the pro-lifers do their thing and we're going to go on about our life, we will never have justice in this country. Because if we do not treat the most vulnerable with justice, there is no justice for anyone. We are defined as a nation, as a society, by how we treat the weak. There are 2,500 abortions every single day in this country. Even with the fall of Roe v. Wade, which was a tremendous victory. It was a tremendous victory. And there have been over 25,000 lives directly saved because when Roe was passed, when Roe v. Wade fell because of Dobbs v. Jackson, laws passed throughout the country, trigger laws in states that protected life. And because of those abortion bans, over 25,000 children have been born that would have been killed otherwise. So that in and of itself is a tremendous victory. But the fight is on. The fight is on. And so we must speak with one voice as a conservative movement, as a movement of values, as a movement of liberties, to say liberty for all, not just some. Justice for all, not just some. And our most vulnerable deserve it most. You might hear from people on campus, people that are they think they're pro-choice or they say they're pro-choice, and they might give you all kinds of justifications for abortion. And I want to address this briefly because you're going to find this. You're going to find this if you come out and speak about how we should ban abortions, how all human lives deserve protection. You're going to face some blowback. But it's important that we are equipped with facts to counter the lies. And so some of these facts include the basic facts of fetal development. It's amazing. The podcast I was on, Timcast, the gentleman that was commenting didn't understand the difference between a sperm cell, an egg cell, and a single cell embryo. This fundamental difference. Now, why could someone so intelligent, because he was an intelligent person, not understand that basic distinction? That when you have a single cell embryo that's a unique individual human life that just needs time and nourishment with its complete unique individual DNA that just needs time and nourishment to grow. A sperm cell, an egg cell, one of my skin cells is never going to grow into a person. It's never going to grow into an adult one day, obviously. It's not an individual human life. We know when life begins. All scientists and biologists agree, even pro-abortion scientists agree and acknowledge, reluctantly, yes, it's a human at the first moment of fertilization. Now, they might say, well, it's a human, but it's not a person, it doesn't have rights. But the creed of human rights is that human rights are for all humans, not just a group of humans that you consider persons. If you are human, you are a person, and you deserve the rights that everybody else has. And that child deserved those rights from the beginning. And so I want to share some quick statistics with the time I have before talking about the culture of life, love, and the civilization of love. So first of all, fetal development. It's important that we have these facts. The heart is beating for a child at just 3.5 weeks. Isn't that incredible? A heartbeat can be detected as early as 6 or 7 weeks in pregnancy. Brain waves are already happening and detectable as early as 7 weeks. By the end of the first trimester, between 12 and 14 weeks, the child's body is fully formed and just needs time and nourishment to grow and start to operate. But you have a brain, you have all of the body parts, you have the arms and legs, you have the face and the facial features. It's incredible how quickly human development happens. And when you see human development and show human development to others, it makes it a lot harder to defend abortion. Because we instinctually know when we see this is a human life. And human life is precious. Human life is sacred. I want to share with you a short video here about the origins of human life. This is a video that YAFCon worked on with world-class illustrators, animators, and medical experts. It is the most lifelike description of life in the womb. Has anyone seen baby Olivia? Okay, there's a few of us. Awesome. This video has been viewed, I think we're at over 50 million times online. And it's continuing to grow. It's now going to be in all classes in the state of North Dakota. We're getting it in other classrooms and courses. But when you learn about the origins of human life, it's much harder to defend human destruction. So let's play Olivia now.
This is Olivia. Though she has yet to greet the outside world, she has already completed an amazing journey. This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. She begins to implant in the uterus about 1 week after fertilization. Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected. The buds of her arms and legs appear by 4 weeks. She begins to move between 5 and 6 weeks with both spontaneous and reflexive movements. At 6 weeks from fertilization, her brain activity can be recorded and bone formation begins. She can bring her hands together at 7.5 weeks, and separate fingers and toes emerge. She can also begin to hiccup. At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called a fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow, grasp an object, touch her face, sigh and stretch. At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment. Her taste bud cells have matured by week 12 but are still scattered throughout her mouth. Her mother will first sense Olivia's movements between 14 and 18 weeks, an event called quickening. Beginning at 18 weeks, ultrasounds show speaking movements in her voice box. Around 20 weeks, with a lot of help, babies have survived outside the womb. At 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories. Olivia has gone on an amazing journey during these last 9 months. She will soon signal to her mother that it is time for delivery and greet the outside world.
Undeniably human and undeniably beautiful. The pro-life case in a nutshell is very simple. I want you guys to remember this logical syllogism when you're going to have conversations about this issue or you're maybe defending the pro-life point of view online, and it's this. It's always wrong to intentionally take an innocent human life. It's always wrong to intentionally take an innocent human life. Who here agrees with that? Great, we're in good company. But guess what? Most people on the left agree with that too. That it's always wrong to intentionally take an innocent human life. the next premise in this syllogism. Abortion is the intentional taking of an innocent human life. Abortion is the intentional taking or killing of an innocent human life. Want to know what an abortion is? Go watch abortionprocedures.com. They're medical animations. But every abortion is designed to do one thing: kill a child. Not just terminate a pregnancy, but kill the child. Remember, in the case of those two men, they didn't just want her to terminate the pregnancy and deliver the baby. They wanted that baby dead. Abortion is about, we want to end not just the pregnancy, but the life of this child. And every abortion procedure is designed to kill an innocent human life. And so the conclusion of the logical syllogism is this: abortion is always wrong. Abortion is always wrong. That preborn child has the same moral status as a born child. They are the same. Scientifically, biologically, they are the same. Morally, they are the same. Your being born doesn't give you human rights. Your humanity gives you human rights. And abortion is devastating. It's devastating for our culture because it tells us that we as women are burdened by children, that children are not a gift, that they're a threat, that children are this negative thing that happens as opposed to the future. And that's what I want to address next. Civilization of love. How do we build a civilization of love? How did we get to the crisis of abortion? How did it happen that we have 2,500 children being killed every single day in this country? If we changed the way that we viewed sex and love, we could eradicate abortion almost overnight. If only people who loved each other, were committed to each other, and were open to having kids together were the ones being intimate and having sex together, then there would be no more abortion. Think about that. It's adult human behavior that has created the abortion crisis. It's our choices as adults. Our desire and our demand to say we want to have sex without responsibility, that we don't have any responsibility, that the only morality around sex is consent. Just consent, and that'll be enough. But that's not the truth. A civilization of love recognizes that the bond between a man and a woman, that the harmonizing of a man and a woman and their ability to create life together in the amazing and sacred institution of marriage is what sets up every family and every child for success. And it's beautiful. I want to share one more video from live action that gives an approach to this topic in a fun way. After the fall of Roe v. Wade. When Roe v. Wade fell, there was a lot of commentary going around. People were saying, I'm going to get a vasectomy because now abortion's illegal. Or women would say, I'm going on a sex strike. There was some very leftist women who went out on Twitter and started a campaign about how they were going on a sex strike. And then a lot of conservatives responded and said, great, that's great. Because basically they were saying, if I can't use abortion as backup contraception, then I'm not going to have sex. If anything besides the saving of the lives that Roe v. Wade's fall did, it helped reaffirm chastity, abstinence, and the beauty of the thing, right? So this video is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's based on a true circumstances and events. Another live action production. You can play the video Dark Times now.
It's been one whole year since Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Which means they've been making abortion illegal all over the place.
So these are dark times.
These are dark times.
Dark times.
Dark times.
Un tiempo muy oscuro.
Because now that Roe v. Wade is overturned, a woman can get pregnant just from having sex.
Oh.
I'm now seriously considering going down the dangerous path of abstinence until marriage.
I find myself in this really bizarre state where I'm asking guys about things like their values and trustworthiness before sleeping with them.
Before a girl will have sex with me now, she's asking me all these dumb questions like, do you love me? And what happens if I get pregnant? And do you have a job? Like, I don't know.
Abortion being illegal where I live has definitely raised the bar for which men I'll date and have sex with. And that's a terrible thing.
It used to be that if I got a girl pregnant, I would just force her to get an abortion. And I can't do that anymore. And that's awful.
I can't tell you how many first dates I've had in the last year where no sex happens. All we do is talk about who we are and get to know each other.
Ladies, if you haven't done it already, you need to get an IUD. This will make your uterus a toxic and hostile environment like it's supposed to be.
It's like now sex is such a bigger deal. It's not just about me using someone else's body to get myself off.
It's like the government is making me responsible for a bunch of stuff I shouldn't be responsible for, like my sex life and my children.
Why would I ever want to bring a child into a world like this? A world in which it's illegal to kill children.
I live in constant fear of a baby somehow finding its way into my uterus.
So these are dark times.
Dark times.
Dark times.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade did this to me. The Supreme Court of the United States put this inside of my body.
Okay, so new idea here. I think that a man and a woman, before they have sex, need to draw up some sort of contract that says, I promise to take care of you and you promise to take care of me, and we both promise to take care of any kids that we produce together. I mean, like, I know it's new, I know it's shocking, I know it's out there, but that kind of contract is the only way that I see us moving forward.
That's marriage.
No, it's not. Well.
Amy Coney Barrett personally did this to me.
Okay, so I only have a little time left, but listen, I'm just going to talk very frankly here about the civilization of love and sex. There is a lot of chaos right now in the dating world. Raise your hand if you think dating today is hard and crazy and annoying. Okay, we mostly agree. A couple hands didn't go up. That's good. There's some hope here. But the reality is divorce rates are high. Fewer people are getting married. Far fewer people are expressing that they are happy. There's skyrocketing rates of mental illness. There's skyrocketing rates of single parent homes. 9 out of 10 women who have abortions are unmarried. 9 out of 10 women who have abortions are unmarried. There is chaos when it comes to love and sex today. And so my challenge for the conservative movement and for us is this: to not be afraid of talking about sexual ethics, to be committed to living as best we can sexual ethics ourselves, to be committed and passionate about marriage. Make marriage great again. Celebrate marriage again. I'm almost 5 years married, so I am not an expert in marriage, but I can say this: marriage has been the greatest blessing of my life besides my faith. The marriage to my amazing husband. And it was his values and his virtue. It was his commitment, and it was his mastery of himself, his self-control, and his drive to do good things for the world and want to be a good father one day that deeply attracted me to him. And I'm going to say there's probably a lot of people in this room that would hope to get married one day, or maybe you're wrestling with mixed feelings about marriage because of your parents' marriage or just what you see about marriage in the culture. But I want to tell you 2 things. Marriage is amazing. It is beautiful. It is possible. No matter what your history has been, no matter what families you come from, marriage can be amazing when it is between 2 people who have committed to each other, who are living and sharing values and virtues, who want to build the most amazing project that you can build, which is a family, and be open to the children that may come from that beautiful union. So don't give up on marriage. And then the second thing, let's practice responsibility. Let's practice sexual respect and responsibility. We have the power. You know, I get in debates a lot online with red pillars, the dating red pillars, who say that, men can't be monogamous. It's impossible for men to be monogamous. That's not true. It's a lie. I know amazing married family men who are passionately faithful and women who are passionately faithful. Fidelity is possible for everyone. Fidelity and authentic love is possible for everyone. So fight for that. Pursue that, and be unabashed about wanting that in a partner and a husband or a wife one day. Be proud of wanting that in a husband or a wife one day. I believe that if we can build strong marriages, strong families, and if we can demand justice for all, not just some, but that first human right for all, and make that our primary focus when it comes to voting in the voting booth, that yes, other issues matter a lot, but if this politician is not going to stand up for life unapologetically and complete protection for the preborn unapologetically, then we have a problem with that. We need to be unapologetically and unabashedly pro-family and pro-life. It is the only way forward. Remember, if we have unity within, our opposition cannot win, because we have truth on our side, because we have truth and goodness on our side. So let's be unified in our love and our fight for life and for family. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
We will now begin Q&A. Please state your name, what school you're from, and a brief question.
Hi, Lila. My name is Gabriel Weichert, and I attend Michigan State University. Go Green. First off, I'd like to thank you so much for being here today. You're a huge role model of mine. I really appreciate you being here. So I do some pro-life activism and outreach around campus, and I'm also, like you, am a Catholic. So we definitely want to change people's minds to make them pro-life. And we also have our faith that calls us to honor our mother and father. My parents are both pro-abortion, and my pro-life work comes up in conversation with them from time to time. So my question is how to balance honoring my parents while also trying to change their mind and make them pro-life. And thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I really appreciate the question and your desire to honor your parents. I mean, we don't really talk about that a lot as a society, but it's a beautiful goal that you have, and I think we are called to do that. Honoring doesn't mean, especially as an adult, obedience or not having, not being willing to share that you're different, that you have different opinions, that you have different views. So I would argue the best way you can honor your parents is by following the truth. Sounds like they raised a young man who wants to follow the truth and live by it and live by your faith, which is an amazing thing today. So honor them best by being passionately pro-life, even when they disagree, and by loving them patiently and hopefully praying that they will one day see the truth too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Richardson, and I'm currently studying to get my midwifery license. And my question is I think a lot of the liberal community will now admit that human life does begin at conception, but now the idea is that it doesn't matter, and I still want to have an abortion. I don't care if it's a human. So how do we deal with that when they just don't even care about human life anymore?
Great question. And Megan, congratulations on pursuing midwifery. That's awesome. We need more pro-life midwives, nurses, doctors, everything. You're right. There are people today, and it's scary. They say, yeah, it's a human. I'm going to kill it anyways. I mean, those two men that with the baby, they knew it's a human. This is a baby boy, and they didn't care. They're going to kill them anyways. And the staff stood by while the baby boy died in that room. It was horrific. What do we do? Well, we continue to speak the truth in and out of season and advocate for life everywhere we go. And we work really hard to ban abortion, because there will still always be in every society some people who say, I'm still going to do the wrong thing, I don't care. But the thing that protects the weak in those societies is the law. So that's why pro-life laws matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lila. My name is Isabella Dini, and I go to the University of Alabama. My question has to do with the use of birth control. I hear a lot of pro-choicers say that if we were really pro-life, we would also be pro-birth control and support things like free birth control for all. But as an Orthodox Christian, I just can't support it. I know you as a Catholic Christian also are against the use of birth control. So how do you explain how we can both be pro-life and anti-birth control?
Okay, great question. I'm glad you brought this up. Two things. First of all, there is an argument from the pro-choice side, and even some pro-lifers, not a lot, but a few, who say, well, we need contraception because it's going to save lives and stop abortion, right? 50%, this is according to Planned Parenthood's research arm, 50% of women who are seeking an abortion, going to have an abortion, were using birth control the month that they got pregnant. The reality is birth control always has the option of failure. It is not fail-proof. And so this idea that safe sex is going to stop abortions is actually a lie. Safe promiscuous sex, safe premarital sex, as they call it safe, is not safe. And it is the reason we have the abortion crisis. Because people don't see sex within marriage as the future, as what they're aiming towards. They just say, well, I'm entitled to sex before marriage, whatever, I'm going to do it, it's not a big deal. And then we have unplanned pregnancy. So the data shows actually that contraception doesn't decrease abortions, that actually contraception creates a contraceptive climate where now abortion becomes the backup contraceptive. Secondly, when it comes to faith, right? You don't have to be aware of this to have a faith. I mean, you don't have to have faith in order to see that contraception is not the solution. You can be atheist and realize that contraception and the behaviors that it encourages to say, I'm just gonna have sex and use contraception, is not the solution. But I do want to explain the teaching when it comes to faith, because I converted to Catholicism in college. I wasn't always Catholic. And before that, I was kind of like, middling evangelical, kind of, Christian, but not really sure of a denomination. And contraception for a lot of Christians is seen as okay. So I want to just explain really briefly why Orthodox Catholics have the teaching on contraception. We have this teaching on contraception because we see sex as twofold, unitive and procreative. That sex is designed, this is natural law, is designed to do two things. Bring life into the world. Not every time you have sex, both have to be fertile, right? And be able to bring that life into the world, but it's designed to bring life into the world. And secondly, it's designed for bonding. I mean, that's why it's called one flesh when two people come together in intimacy. They're bonding in an incredible way. Biologically, scientifically, there's tons of research on how bonded you are because of sex. So those two things are best within the institution of marriage, because in a marriage, you are willing to have kids and be open to life and be able to raise them. You're committed to each other. And when you bond, you're just strengthening your marriage. So that's why we have the teaching on contraception, because contraception goes in there and divorces one of those two things. Contraception says, I'm going to bond without openness to life. And when you expect bonding from sex and you expect the pleasure from sex without the willingness to be open to life, you open the door to the abortion culture that we're facing. Because now it's saying, oh, well, sex shouldn't be about kids. I want it to just be about I want it to just be about recreation, not sometimes procreation. And therefore, oh no, it's an unplanned, unwanted pregnancy. Pregnancy should never be seen as unplanned or unwanted. Maybe it's a surprise in the sense of, I didn't think that would happen this month, but it should be seen as, okay, this is what I signed up for. When I am intimate, when I'm committed to this other person. So that's why that teaching exists, and I think it's such an important and beautiful one. Now, you don't have to accept that teaching. You might not be Catholic or Orthodox. You might not even be Christian. You don't have to accept it, but I think we can all agree that contraception, tons of contraception like we have in this country, has not made us more responsible. It's actually made us less responsible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Lila. I'm Connor. I go to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And I just wanted to ask a question about, a lot of people on the left try to phrase this issue as a women's rights issue rather than a human rights issue. And so how do you think we can argue from that premise, or even should we?
So they say that it's a women's issue. You hear this a lot, choice, reproductive freedom for women. And first of all, I would say that yes, and you could say that abortion is a woman's issue because disproportionately, globally, girls are targeted by abortion in the womb more than boys. That they're in countries like India and China, little girls, they estimate there's over 100 million, The Economist says over 100 million missing girls, demographic imbalance because little girls are being killed in the womb by abortion. What I'm getting to here, of course, is that there is no right that any woman has to kill, but the right that women share with men is to live. We have the same right to live. And so this whole idea of reproductive freedom for women, choice for women, I have rights as a woman, as you have rights as men and women in this room. We all share human rights, but no woman or man has the right to kill an innocent child, including a child dependent on them. Just because the baby's dependent on me, even dependent on me in my womb, doesn't give me license to kill that baby. And so that's the fundamental answer to that. And I personally am so disgusted by the lies out there when it comes to women saying that this is good for us. What is our superpower as women? What is the one thing that we can do that no other man on earth can do? What is it? We can gestate a baby in our womb. We can bring that life into the world. No, men cannot get pregnant. Women can, and that is a superpower, and it's a shame. And it's a shame that we have been indoctrinated to weaponize our superpower as some sort of handicap, and the child as some sort of threat that we need to dispose of. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Morning, Ms. Rose. My name is Henry Arthur. I go to Millsaps College. I agree with you that abortion is wrong in 100% of cases, but every time I've gotten into an argument with a liberal about it, they always get to a point where they're like, well, what about rape, you hateful bigot? Plus, you're not even a birthing person, so you shouldn't even have an opinion. So how do you respond to the argument of rape?
Well, first of all, you can say, how do you know I'm not a birthing person? You can always do that. But, okay, so I hear this a lot because this is, there's a tendency on the pro-choice side. Some are very well-intentioned, but some of them are not. But there's a tendency to bring this up as this extreme, horrific case, right? And this is the justification for abortion. First, you got to acknowledge rape is horrific. It's one of the worst things that anyone could endure. And it is important that we do everything we can to support survivors of sexual assault and that we penalize rapists, put them behind bars. But the solution to a baby conceived in a rape, pregnancy after rape, is not to give the death penalty to an innocent child. Two wrongs do not make a right. And for the woman who was the survivor of rape, her having an abortion is not going to heal her from the trauma of her rape. I think sometimes we're just like, make the trauma go away. It's such a horrible situation. So in our minds, good people listening to these horrible sob stories, we think, well, if they just get rid of that pregnancy, then at least she doesn't have this pregnancy. She's not healed from her rape by having the second violence, the second trauma of abortion happen to her, and then this life taken, this innocent life. In this country, we don't even give the death penalty to rapists. It's against federal law. Why would we give the death penalty to an innocent child?
Thank you.
Thanks.
This will be our last question.
Hi, my name is Karina Falls, and I'm from the University of Northwestern in Minnesota. First of all, I just want to say quickly, you've been a big inspiration of mine as I'm pursuing full-time pro-life work, so I love your stuff.
Awesome.
So my question is, what is your response to Republican candidates who insist they have to compromise on the abortion issue in order to get elected?
Thanks for asking this, because I kind of touched on it in the talk today, but it's such an important question that you're asking. What do we do about these politicians who say they need to compromise, or people tell them they need to compromise? You don't compromise on fundamental human rights. You just don't do that. Someone's either alive or dead. There's no in between for the baby, right? So to say, well, let's just kill some and let some live, like that's not justice. So we need to be very adamant as voters to say, no, we want complete legal protection. And YAFCon has worked with now dozens of intellectuals and academics and other pro-life leaders for the 14th Amendment North Star Coalition. Has anyone heard of the North Star Coalition? This was just launched on the anniversary of Dobbs v. Jackson, the fall of Roe v. Wade last month. Already, abortion is unconstitutional in this country. We don't need some more, we don't need another constitutional amendment. We don't need somebody to go find it in the Constitution. It's already in the Constitution under the 14th Amendment, which promises equal protection under the law for all. And it specifically states that no state has the right to deprive life of any person, life, without due process under the law. There is no due process for the child in the womb. There is no due process for the 20-week-old baby killed by abortion. There's no due process for them, obviously, they're innocent. So already we know, it's obvious that first human right is life, and the Constitution defends that right for all, equal protection under the law for all. So I think we need to say that again and again, get politicians comfortable with saying that, because they take cues from the grassroots. What we say as grassroots is where the politicians take cues. If the grassroots isn't mobilized and passionate and on fire, then the politicians are going to be more waffly or afraid. But if we're saying, no, we want total legal protection, equal protection for all, 14th Amendment already promises it, abortion is murder, what the heck, stand up for life. We have banned abortion in 13 states and already in this country. Abortion is totally banned in 13 states. We can do it and more, but we have to demand it from our politicians. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.